UIC Liberty TV. Change you can trust.
Hi everyone, good evening. We're just doing a quick test in preparation for our meeting tonight with Mr. Chase Neal, who is our candidate for Western St. Mary. We're going to be chatting with him at about 5 o'clock. So I wanted to make sure that all is going well. Let me know if you can see me clearly and if you can hear me clearly on this particular live. Okay, so testing, 1, 2, 3. Let me know if you can hear me very clearly. If you can, just type yes in the chat box. If no, let me know. Thank you. Please let me know if you can hear me. Can you hear me loud and clear, everyone? Can you hear me? All right, wonderful. And the picture is clear as well. Let me know if the picture is clear. If you can hear me clearly there and see me clearly. So later tonight, we're going to be talking with Mr. Chase Neal. But while we're waiting for that time to come, let's have a little quick Q&A. If you have any questions for me. A lot of stuff has been happening in the country, as you can see clearly on the news every day. We have, 7 more people murdered in Kingston. We have persons being charged with, buying acid to attack their spouse. We have persons being paid to commit murder. So we have quite a bit of things going on here in Jamaica that need some attention. Mr. Burrell, I think it is a national recruitment model from the grassroots level within, should be community-based, organizational structure supported by a funding model. I gather you're talking about the UIC here and how we should go about recruiting persons. Yes, we have an ongoing recruitment process, going on. Good evening, Cecil Reed. Good to see you on as well. Yeah, man, we have an ongoing recruitment process going on in the UIC on a daily basis. The way we have it structured right now is there are 3 vice presidents. Mr. Winston Wright out in Cornwall, and Mr. Chase Neal in Middlesex, and Miss Jasmine Powell in Surrey. I hope you have gotten the news that was sent out a couple of days ago. We sent out an update on the new structure of the UIC with Dr. Coretta Brown Johnson, who has been appointed to be the interim president, because of some personal challenges of Mr. Wright not being able to continue as interim president. So Mr. Wright will return to his position as deputy chairman and as the VP for the county of Cornwall, as well as the MP candidate for Western Westmoreland, as well as for the division of Betheltown in Westmoreland. So bit of changes there. The former chairman, Dr. Coretta, is now the interim president. I've been invited to serve as chairman in the interim in order for us to just remain very focused on our mission, vision and values, and to organize ourselves for the upcoming elections. You might have seen where we have been interviewing candidates for the upcoming general, and shortly after we're going to be interviewing candidates for the local elections as well. So you're going to see quite a bit of those happening over the next few days, coming through. So stay tuned for that. If you are a member or a supporter and you have subscribed to our website, uicjamaica.com, you would have gotten 2 emails. One email from the Deputy General Secretary, Mr. Chase Neal, and one email from myself as the um, the new chairman, speaking to the changes that's happening and kind of pointing us in the right direction, where we're going. The UIC continues to press forward to ensure that we have the requisite um, funding and candidates to be able to contest the upcoming elections. As you know, it's not an easy thing contesting elections. Elections require um, money, organization. I saw a message recently from one of our members. They sent us a model that they use in India for funding political parties. So far, I've not seen a model that is better than the UICs. We have the absolutely best model in the entire world. That when Jamaica adopts this model, it will give us the kind of governance that ensures transparency, ensures accountability, and ensures true representation. Because what you have now is not true representation. The elected MPs that you have in Parliament today, as well as those at the council level, do not represent the people of their constituencies and do not represent the people of Jamaica. All of the MPs, all of the councillors represents their political party, and their political party represents the PSOJ oligarchs. So we do not have representational politics in Jamaica in the sense of representing the interest of the Jamaican people. That's not happening here at all in Jamaica. What you have is representation of the PSOJ oligarchs. That's all you have. And I need you to get that very clear, that the two political parties represent the PSOJ and the MPs represents the parties. And so when you go to the polls and you think you're electing an MP to represent you or to represent your community or to represent your constituency, that is not the case. So the UIC has built a model that will ensure proper representation. And this model is based on a 100% publicly funded campaign financing system. It doesn't give money to the candidates directly. What it does is provide all eligible candidates with the access that they need. Because when you're running for office, what do you need? You need access to communicate with the people in your constituency. And so we have built that system to ensure that the candidates have access via newspaper, radio, television, internet, town hall meetings, debates, walkthroughs. All of that is funded publicly by the taxpayers and ensures that the voice of all candidates are heard by the citizens. So please feel free to send in your questions if you have any questions that you want me to look at ahead of our meeting tonight with Mr. Chase. You can write them here in the comment box, or you can call in on our phone number, which will be on screen momentarily. You can call into 293-0812 if you want to talk to me directly or to ask your question directly. The UIC is very open. We are, after all, the People's Party, meaning that unlike the other two parties, we're owned by you, 100% owned by you. We are not owned by the PSOJ oligarchs. We're not owned by the colonial masters. We're not owned by any special interest groups. We're owned by you, the people. So to the extent that we succeed, as a political movement, is a reflection of our ability to convince you to donate to the party, to the movement, our ability to convince you to volunteer, our ability to excite you, our ability to cause you to have confidence in us to work on your behalf. So hopefully we will be able to win that confidence, and you will be able to share some of your time, your talent, and your treasure with us so we can represent you. So Kevron says, what led him to join the UIC? Absolutely, we'll ask that as well, for sure. Will he be in charge of education is another question that Kevron is asking. That's a good question. Well, that's really for the interim president to decide at this stage. Normally, the president assigns the um, the respective um, ministry or ministerial portfolio to different members on the team. Of course, in consultation with them. So, very good questions. Feel free though to ask any questions you have tonight outside of Mr. Neil and just in relations to what you see happening in Jamaica, what you see happening in the UIC, what you would like to see us do. Please feel free to raise any of those questions right now, and or make any comments that you think may be relevant to this discussion. So yeah, I would love to take a look at a few clippings from the news and to give you some commentary on that, if that is okay. Um, uh, Kevron says, "You won us over. I spread the word to friends and family." Yeah, how is that going? How is the spreading of the word going? Do you find family members and friends in Jamaica and around the world expressing more interest in supporting the UIC, or do you find a lack of interest? Do you find persons having doubt that we can make a difference, or persons expressing their hope and their willingness to help to make sure that the UIC is elected? We have to remember that the UIC is not like the other two parties. We don't have the kind of financial backing that they have, right? We're not established like they are. We don't have we're going against the grain. We're going against the system. The system is set up to preserve and protect the interest of the colonial masters and the oligarchs. When I talk about colonial masters, what I mean really are those countries which have the concentration of the global elites who dictates international politics, who seeks to drive the global economy, those who control the banking system globally, those who influence the geopolitical environment in which we find ourselves. So they're there, and they decide, who they're going to work with, and whether or not a government is favorable to them or unfavorable to them. In Jamaica, our government is very favorable, 100% favorable to the global oligarchs, and they're also 100% favorable to the local oligarchs. So there are two sets of oligarchs. The global oligarchs controls the global economy, the global banking system, the global monetary system, the global agenda behind health and education and agriculture. So they have global policies that they want to see implemented across the world, which is to concentrate power and concentrate resources and concentrate wealth in their hands, the hands of a few, like the World Economic Forum and people like those. Then you have the local oligarchs in Jamaica now. Those are the ones who, they have the big companies, they own the big banks, the big insurance. And so they have an agenda, and their agenda is to ensure that Jamaica's economy remains favorable to them, even if it means depriving the mass of Jamaicans of the means to self-actualize and mobilize and grow financially. They have no care about the quality of life of the Jamaican people, insofar as it will preserve their economic position, right? So they're working for that. Kevron says, "I find people to be open to the UIC policies. However, some doubt the party can win, and they don't realize by not voting, it's because it becomes self-fulfilling prophecy." That is so correct. But here's the problem, Kevron. It's not just about voting, because if you don't have anything to vote for, then voting becomes meaningless. And so that's one of the problems we have. We're trying to convince the Jamaican people, home and abroad, that we have to give ourselves something to vote for. If we simply sit back and wait for a political party to emerge and to be on the ballot and to do the groundwork of going through community by community, door to door, and build an awareness among the Jamaican people, educate the Jamaican people, mobilize the Jamaican people to take action. If we're waiting for that to happen, it will never happen because there's no third party in the world that is able to operate without a funding source. Now, we in the UIC have made it a deliberate decision not to seek to be funded by the oligarchs and end up in the same position where they would then control us like they control the other two parties and therefore dictate to us what policies we can or cannot implement. So if we fall for the trap of depending on the same source of income as the others, then we're going to get just one more party like the others. So what I've been trying to do and what we've been trying to do as a group is to educate the nation, educate you, educate all of us that it's we now who have to own our own movement. We the people who see what needs to be done. We know what needs to be done with crime. We know, say, we need to clean up the corruption in government. We know that we have to fix our education system. We know we have to fix public transportation. All of these things, we the people know. And we know that as long as the system remains as corrupt as it is, it doesn't matter who you put in the seat. If the system remains, you're going to get the same outcome. So we know that. So in order for us to change that, what do we have to do? We have to now get a party, a movement that's independent of those other two and of the PSOJ oligarchs. A movement that is going to be focused entirely on doing the will of the Jamaican people, of doing the cleanup which is necessary in order to bring us into a different environment altogether. And that will never happen via the two colonial parties because their very history, their DNA, their mentality is focused on preserving the corrupt system that they have created. So they worked with their colonial masters back in the 1930s and 40s and gave us the system we have today. So all the problems you see in Jamaica, all of them, take any area of Jamaica, any area. If you take any area and work it through, you'll see that where we are today is the result of the policies, the politics, the system embraced by these two parties, funded by the PSOJ because it funds them. And by funding them to do what they have done, it means the PSOJ is just as culpable. And they will not do anything inconsistent with the PSOJ because they know they won't get the funding if they do that. So any of the two parties that have ever tried to deviate from them, you might recall Michael Manley tried to deviate from them. And what happened? They just cripple him. They just cripple the economy and cripple him. Now, I don't agree entirely with Mr. Manley's political philosophy because I do not believe in democratic socialism. I do not believe in socialism. I do not believe in communism. I do not believe in crony capitalism. What I believe in is good governance and pragmatism. So I believe in the need for us to ensure the system is designed to protect us from corruption. It is designed to protect our individual sovereignty. So no government, be it my government or any other, no government must have the power to violate our individual sovereignty, our individual right to our life, our liberty, and our property. So a UIC government, for example, would never be able to be used by external forces to force any agenda on the Jamaican people. No outside force could force us, a UIC government, under UIC governance model, to inject the nation or try to inject the nation with a foreign producers or local producers substance. They could not use us to enforce drug laws which criminalize our young men and women for wanting to use a substance given to them by God, by nature. in whatever form they want to use it, as long as they're not killing anybody. They would not be able to have banking laws and regulations that undermines our people, oppress our people, and make the big banks richer at our expense. So you see what I'm saying? So our system is designed to protect you, not even the government. The government is supposed to be vulnerable to the people. So the system of governance must be one where the government understands its role and is kept in its role as a protector of our rights. And the constitution must be so written, and that's why we're going to have a new constitution. It must be so written that it protects us from the government. And so if the government should try to protect us, the constitution would have quickly come to our aid without any reservation, without any need for expensive court cases, because it will speak clearly to the protection of our individual sovereignty and our collective sovereignty as one. So Wade Noble says, the UIC shall eradicate 80 years of man-made poverty and set the people free. Exactly so. That's what we're going to do. And Monica Richards says, when Bill Clinton was removed, his wife Hillary Clinton went to the front of the fight to fulfill her husband's vision. Maybe donations could increase if we nominate Mrs. Patterson for interim. Thank you for that thought, Monica Richards, but I can assure you that Mrs. Patterson has absolutely no interest to serve in that capacity. She is my biggest supporter, my greatest supporter. She's always supporting me, standing beside me at all times, always willing to help. But what we have done, Ms. Richards, we have demonstrated that the UIC is not about Joseph Patterson. It's not about Charlotte Patterson. It's not about Winston Wright. It's not about Dr. Coretta Brown Johnson. It's about the people of Jamaica. Our goal is to give the Jamaican people a political movement that will give us a political system that will forever protect the interest of the Jamaican people, not just as a collective, but as individuals with individual identities, with individual rights and responsibilities as sovereigns above all else. So in our model of governance, in our philosophy of governance, there's nobody and there are no institutions more sovereign than you, the individual citizen. And that's how you want to build your country. You want to build your government. You want to write your constitution so that every citizen feels absolutely respected and protected by the system. So the system must be there to help you, to aid you, to support you, to empower you to achieve your full potential. But unfortunately, the system we have, because it was inspired by colonial thinking and colonial thoughts and colonial ambitions, the system we have today is not designed to empower you. It's not designed to promote you. It's not designed to support you. It is designed to use you, to rob you, to take away what belongs to you through all kind of configurations, some obvious and some not so obvious. Take, for example, the monetary system. As I've explained before, the monetary system we have is blatantly designed to steal your purchasing power each and every day. Now, no politician in Jamaica has ever come forward and explained that to you except the UIC. We have made it very clear that the banking system, the monetary system, the very economic model upon which Jamaica and the world is based is designed to rob you, to rip you off, to keep you struggling and fighting to try to get to financial freedom and never getting there. Only a few manage to escape the claws of this bad system of economic governance that we have been under for so many years. So the UIC is committed to eradicating that system. And so we have taken the time to not only explain the problem, but to provide you with solutions. And, our education system is the same. I know for years we were proud of our education system because there's a time when it did teach us how to write properly, how to read properly, if you went to the right school, of course. But we have seen where the education system is a massive failure. And you can just walk around Jamaica, you can see the failure. You know, we're at a place now in our country's history where there's practically nothing that we can do, nothing that we can manage. Look at it carefully. There's nothing. The only thing we do very well as a country right now is to produce criminals, which is nothing to be proud of course. But we are very, very good at producing criminals, all kinds of criminals, white collar criminals or black collar, if you will. You know, we're producing criminals in every shape and form. Males, females, adults, children, politicians, clergymen, bankers, traders. We're producing a massive amount of criminals. Why? Because our system is not based on the correct values, and it's not built to bring out the best in our people. In fact, the system we have is designed and was designed to bring out the worst in us, and it has succeeded tremendously. Yeah. So the question is asked, why is education declining so badly in Jamaica by Kevron, 20 Kevron? Education is declining because it is not addressing the needs of the students. The education system and the economic system are telling our students that the two are not linked. So what you're learning in school isn't resulting in you being able to succeed in life. And by success, I'm talking about some simple things. Everyone who goes to school goes there with a basic ambition. We want to be able to graduate and find a good job or build a sound company to earn enough to enjoy a decent and dignified standard of living. Every high school graduate or university graduate wants to be able to own a home, be able to afford transportation, to be able to buy quality food and clothing, and enjoy some degree of leisure and rest commensurate with their productive efforts. So if you're going to school and when you're looking out around you, you see your teacher struggling, you see the police officer struggling, you see the soldier struggling, you see the bright spark that was a year or two ahead of you, who they said got 13 subjects struggling. You see your next door neighbor who got their first degree and come out and struggle, can't find work, or the work they find is substandard and they can't afford anything. You see somebody that you know as a boy, as an upstanding citizen, you watch them and know they can't fix the car, uh, they can't fix the roof, their house is falling apart, and they don't have the means to make it look decent. So you said to yourself as a young man or young girl in school, why am I doing this? What is this all about? What is for? So you start to question the value of what your teacher is saying. You also question the value of what your pastor is saying, because the pastor talk and tell you all kind of stuff, and you're trying to be a good boy, trying to be a good girl. You obey the commandments and you living according to the fruit of the Spirit or character of Christ, and you're trying to be good and nice and decent. But when you look around you, what you see? You see good, nice, decent people failing. You might even live in a home where you know for certain that your parents are involved in illegal activities. You see your auntie trafficking drugs to go abroad to get some money. You see your father, if he lives with you or not, involving some, stealing from the company he works for. You see politicians who are getting away with all kind of corruption activities. So the whole country to you is a depraved collection of people who are failures. The system has failed them, or they have failed the system. And you're not seeing as a young boy or young girl how this system can work for you. So your mind now start to look, and you watch TV and you watch, YouTube, and you see people living a different way somewhere else. So you want to leave the country. You want to go somewhere else because this not work for you. You don't see how putting your head to your book, your lessons, is going to result in you being able to live a decent life. So you start to look all around the place now. You're more open now to somebody coming and enticing you to get involved in scamming. You're more open now to listen to somebody who tell you he's a part of a gang, and last night the job them do, them get $5 million. Your mother don't make $1 million for the year. Your father, who has left the family and you never ever know him properly. When you look at him, what he's doing, he don't make $1 million for the year. But your gangster friend them are able to show you 5 million they get in one night, or 10 million. So you're enticed now to this, and that's the kind of depravity which is taking over our society. You want to feel powerful because you feel powerless in this system. You feel very, very powerless. You want to feel powerful, and somebody come and say, I can give you a gun. And you get a gun, and because you're not very smart, you're not very educated, because your school wasn't working for you. Because if school works for you, you're going to learn to reason. You're going to learn to analyze. You're going to learn to rationalize. You're going to learn to comprehend and forecast and so on. So if you miss out all of that in school because you're distracted by the poverty and by the corruption and by the fuss and fight all around you, you will reason the wrong way and end up in the wrong thing. And so a gun in your hand means power. You feel powerful now because you get a gun, and others don't have gun. And you feel you can walk into a person's store and pull that gun, and you're powerful at that moment, and you point that at them and say, give me what you have. And you might be trigger happy and the gun go off and you kill your first person, and nobody will catch you. You get away with it, and you feel emboldened and you kill the next person. And before you know it, you are a hardened criminal. Or maybe you get caught on the second or third one, and you're going in the system, and when you go on the way that the whole thing work out, you even lose more respect for the system, and you become more connected with other gang leaders and criminals. And so now you get a first degree in crime and criminality by those you are associated with in the prison. You see police officers or wardens and others who are involved in helping to smuggle things in and out of the prison. You get to understand that people in prison pay people to go kill people outside. You get to find out that the judge is corrupt. And as you're going through all of this, your mind is becoming more depraved. You have a child, you have a girlfriend, or two, or three baby mothers. And this kind of thinking becomes the thinking that permeates the 3 different homes that you are impacting. And this mindset dissipates throughout the entire community that you live in, the parish, the county, the country. And so that's where Jamaica is heading. And that's why our education system is failing, Mr. Kevin. Jacqueline Lawrence says, does the UIC have any idea how many Jamaicans are willing to vote for the UIC? Yes, Ms. Lawrence. I believe that 63% of the Jamaican people are willing to vote for anything but the other 2 parties. Unfortunately, they do not yet know enough about the UIC. They're not seeing the UIC because the UIC can only be seen if we have the funds to overcome the media boycott that we are suffering. So they're there. It's very easy for the UIC to be elected if we have the funds. The people are fed up. The Jamaican people are tired. They're fed up. It's just that they're not going to just simply vote for the UIC. They have to hear. Many Jamaicans will only believe in the UIC if they see us in the streets, on the road, in their community. And if they see us on TV and hear us on radio, all the better. If we're able to produce pamphlets and spread across the country, massive change. But as you know, that doesn't happen in a vacuum. That requires money. Mr. Noble says Jamaica has once the number one in the Caribbean. Oh, Jamaica was once the number one in the Caribbean. We were producing and exporting. Of course, Jamaica was a massive producer, but only under the colonial masters. I hope you understand that Jamaica was the richest country in the Caribbean region, producing most of the products that the UK and Europe wanted. And they were getting it out of Jamaica. But how did they get it out of Jamaica? The colonial leaders, the colonial masters were in charge, and they run the system the same way it is being run today, with the exception that because they were here, they fixed up certain place to meet their taste, and they were extracting our wealth while keeping the people as low paid serfs, near slaves. And so while Jamaica was rich, the mass of people were still poor, which is the case today. Jamaica is still a rich country, but the mass of people are so poor. Now, as the mass of people grow and our local government is corrupt, the country is becoming less and less productive because the people are becoming less and less inclined to be enslaved. And so more of our young people now are deciding they don't want to work. Because when they do the math, and we don't love math in this country, but we can do basic math. When a young person gets up, okay, in the morning, and they said, okay, if me go work down this up, the money when me get every week is just enough to pay a bus fare or taxi fare to go to work the next week or the next fortnight or the next month, and to buy lunch. And God bless what is left for grocery, for rent, for clothing, for leisure. And so what is happening is more and more young people are opting out of the traditional economy and trying to find alternate means. Now, the economy is still very wealthy because if you look at the financial statements of all the big companies, they are raking in billions of dollars. Where is that coming from? Two places. One, from remittances. So there are many Jamaicans who their income is based on remittances. Okay? Also, a part of that remittance is not just what they get from their fellow Jamaicans abroad, but also scamming. So that's the two inflows of remittances, scamming and good-hearted Jamaicans who are sending home money to help grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, cousin, brother and sister and friends. And then you have now the dwindling productive sector in Jamaica, which produces whatever it produces, and some exports and so on in the mix. And then that produces wealth. Now, because Jamaica is a low-wage country, the big corporations here get to exploit this low-wage environment that they created because they're the ones that design and protect this low-wage environment. So they have kept it that way so that you are kept low paid. And they get now to trim off a huge amount of profits. So when you see the small companies suffering because they can't keep up with the cost of buying and then reselling, but the bigger companies with the volume that they have and the low wages that is maintained for them, they have the profitability and the profits to be multi-billionaires in this country. And they take a portion of that money now and they give it to the two parties to keep the system the way it is. So the two parties are getting this money on a consistent basis to keep the system the way it is and send the fool a little farther. So we, the people, are mesmerized by the division, by the distractions and by the deceptions. But all it does is to keep the wealth, whatever wealth we have here, in the hands of a few and leave the vast majority to subsist on 10% of the wealth and to subsist in meager ways, living in substandard conditions with substandard infrastructure, substandard policing, substandard healthcare, substandard education, substandard everything. While our politicians now at the top, those who are in power and those who are close to being in power, as they alternate, they now get to have the very big houses, the very nice cars, the very nice food and dinner, the very nice clothing, the very nice recreation and vacations, and they come into the community. And they come and fool up the people. If you go to my constituency right now, in Northeast St. Elizabeth, you see the candidates from the two sides, yeah, going through the community, using the resources that they get from their financiers to sweet up the people then and fool them up for another election. Now the people don't realize that after the sweeting up is happening, after it's done, and the election is over, what's left? They're right back to square one. The bad roads are still there. The lack of economic development is still there. The poor school is still there. The poor healthcare is still there. And they would have gotten excited for nothing. Yes, they got excited because some of them get a bit of handouts. They might get some lunch money for their kids. They might get some free school books. They might have gotten bounce about for the kids to play on one day, one night. They might have gotten, something like that. A sheet of zinc, a goat, some pig food, whatever it is. They got something, but not enough for any significant change to take place in their lives. And that continues to this very day. So we've been going through this now for 80 years. And the question is, have we learned? Have we finally come to our senses? Yeah, on this. Let me take a few comments here. Let me see what I have missed. I see here where Kevron says, I find people, oh, I saw that before. Where is this? Let me see here. Delton Hamilton says, once elected, will the UIC implement a second language? If so, what will it be and why? Introducing a second language is a low priority on the list for the UIC, to be very honest with you. There's no harm. It's a good idea for people to learn multiple languages. It's a very good idea. But right now, we are failing so badly in the English language that many of our people today, right now in Jamaica, many of our children leaving school today cannot speak English properly. They can't write English properly. They can't communicate in English properly. In fact, I have found in my own work that many people are uncomfortable dealing with transacting business, planning and organizing using the English language. Now, this is problematic because the rest of the world, even China, Singapore, France, the rest of the world are all using the English language. Now, we can't afford to shoot ourselves in the leg by expending resources to go try to learn another language when we haven't learned this one yet. Patois is a good language. It's our language. We know it already. All of we know Patois. All of we can talk Patois. Every Jamaican can chat Patois. We can all say, come here, where they were going. We can all do that. So we don't need to spend resources now trying to say we're going to make Patois an official language. Not because we're not proud of it. Not because it's not a good thing to do. But we have to prioritize. And our priority now must be to improve our productivity and our efficiency and eliminate corruption and get our economy and get our systems working so that we can be a highly productive nation and a highly prosperous nation. When we get to a degree of prosperity, we can start to talk about other things now that are more luxurious to have, right? But I don't think as a government that wants to fix the core problems facing us, that we have time to go and play with other areas that are less of a priority than what we have now. So I hope that answers that question for you. I see a question here or comment from Kevron. Persons accumulate billions, but it's not the not democratized since they erect barriers of entry called permits or regulations. So the regular persons are left out. Quite so, Kevin. You're so smart. So what they do, they give us regulations that they say are for our protection, but don't be fooled. All the regulations we have in Jamaica, every single one of them, no matter how nice they sound, they are designed behind the scenes to ensure that it achieves the objective of keeping the wealth in the hands of a few and denying the masses access to that wealth. All the regulations. I'm not estimating that. I'm not guessing. I'm telling you. Every time they bring in a regulation, just pause and wonder and think. I wonder who for business them are trying to protect now. I wonder who for pocket them are trying to full up now with this regulation. I wonder what strategy this is now to move wealth from the hands of the masses to the hands of a few, no matter what it is. So if they come with regulations for Airbnb, it is not to help you and me. It is to find a way to stop you and me from benefiting from the Airbnb and to push that money back in the hands of a few, a select few that are tightly connected to the PSOJ oligarchy. That's all. If you hear them talk about a banking regulation change, it is not to make banking more accessible and efficient and effective for me and you. It is again to find a way to use the banking sector to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and to deny the masses. If you hear them come up with a new law that they're going to implement to stop criminals, trust me, the same applies. It may be a strategy to see how they can give some friends of theirs contracts to shift tax dollars from the tax coffers into the hands of certain people, or to shut down certain people and stop them from advancing in the economy and to give that advance to those who are already milking that economy. All the regulations, every one of them. If you hear about a new plan for education, same thing. It might be simply another structure as to how they're going to corruptly move tax dollars out of the tax coffers into the hands of their preferred persons. All the time, every time. That is the plan. I assure you. And if you were to ever take the time to examine each of those regulations and follow the money, you will see that I am always right on the matter. The plan is to ensure that we, the Jamaican people, remain slaves for as long as we shall live. And then there's a few now who, as long as they shall live, want to remain as the middleman or the background master for those at the top. So whether it is the leader of one or the other, whether it's a new leader for one or the other, whether it's a new election manifesto or a new election song, all of these things are designed as smoke and mirror to divide us, to distract us, to deceive us. All of them. So when you hear the new election song come out, or when you hear the new plan, their new 10-point plan, or their new announcements of what they're going to do in energy, or what they're going to do in education, or what they're going to do in healthcare, or ask the question, where were you 80 years ago, 70 years ago, 60 years ago, 50 years ago, 40 years ago, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago? Why weren't these things done by your two parties over this period? They're hoping that you will suffer from what we've suffered from for years. We will forget. We will fail to analyze. We will fail to connect the dots. And we will just allow them again to say, give him a chance, give she a chance, give them another turn, and if they don't do it, vote them out. No. All you're doing is repeating the same thing over and over and hoping for a different result. We have done it now for 80 years and Jamaica is worse for it. The dollar is the greatest example of what I'm talking about. The Jamaican dollar has consistently gone down, down, down. No matter who you give a chance. No matter whether you give this leader or that leader a chance, the dollar continues to go down. Yes, they've had moments of stabilization. I don't know that. Just a temporary reprieve. Yeah. Look at the crime rate. It has gone up. Yes, there are moments it kind of jiggle around some kind of reduction, but it continues to be the same trajectory. Crime goes up, dollar goes down. Crime goes up. So just picture a graph, an economic graph. Yeah? Crime goes up, dollar comes down. Then put on that graph the education system, and you'll see consistent failure, consistent failure, consistent failure, and gradual decline. Plot on that same graph for productivity. The productivity follows the dollar. As the dollar goes down, so does productivity, because the dollar is really a measure of productivity. So as productivity goes down, the dollar goes down. Then look at inflation. And what you're going to see on the same graph is inflation shooting through the sky. So no Jamaican can reasonably plan their lives and work over their 40 years of life and say, I'm saving towards my retirement. Almost every single Jamaican will retire poor and destitute. Almost everyone. Only a few, like the Honorable PJ Patterson, who will retire wealthy, and the Honorable Andrew Holness will retire wealthy, and the Honorable Mark Golding will retire wealthy. But the honorable people of Jamaica, the real honorable people of Jamaica, the vast majority will all retire poor and destitute. You could have ring your bell as much as you want, or shout power as much as you want, or praise Andrew, or praise Mark, or praise PJ, or praise Portia, or praise Bruce, whoever you want. Praise them as much as you want. But the reality of the Jamaican people, as a result of 80 years of these two parties, is high crime, low dollar, high inflation, declining education. That is the history of these two parties. And the only question is, how much more of it will you stand by and either support or do nothing about by not getting involved and saying, let us do something different from this now? That's the only question. Let me take a few more points here. Who is this now? Kevron says persons. Okay, I got that. Ina says, I saw a PSOJ guy on Ratigan program saying no third party can win in Jamaica. What would you say about that? Well, he's only correct if we make him correct. No third party can win in Jamaica unless the people of Jamaica decide to fund that third party. A third party can win in Jamaica if the PSOJ oligarchs decide that they want to back this third party. You might recall the NDM. When the NDM came about, it was because members of the PSOJ oligarchs were tired of Mr. Siaga, and they wanted to get rid of Mr. Siaga, and he wouldn't leave. And so because he wouldn't leave, the same oligarchs created the NDM. They gave the NDM the money to be able to look like a meaningful third party. The NDM was not a real third party. I know people think it's a third party. NDM was simply an offshoot of the JLP. The NDM was not a real third party coming from the people of Jamaica. The NDM was a creature of the same PSOJ oligarchs. And so they gave it the funding it needed to stand up and look like something. And then as soon as it served its purpose of weakening Mr. Siaga so badly that he had to relinquish control of the JLP and make way for Bruce Golding to come back into the party and promise him that he would become the leader of the party. Then Bruce Golding left the NDM and went back to the JLP where he really belonged and never left. And the NDM now, the funding that was coming from the PSOJ, of course, pulled out and left the few there who didn't realize that they were just being used, that it was not real, it was a fake thing, it wasn't really anything, it was just there. So let's say Mr. Siaga still hung on to the GLP. The PSOJ would have simply transferred their support to the NDM. That third party would have risen up and would have said, yay, our third party is raising up. And it would have risen up. The GLP would have died because the PSOJ would pull their funding. And now you would have the NDM and the PNP. And you would think that you have had, no, you wouldn't have had a third party. What you would have had is a controlled opposition that the PSOJ funded and allowed to come in and give you the impression that we, the people, have done something. The only time we, the people, would have done anything is when we, the people, decide to form our own party, fund our own party, and vote for our own party. And that's what the UIC is all about. We are the people's party because we did not come out of the PNP. We did not come out of the GLP. We came out of the bowels of the Jamaican people. And as a result of that, we are owned, funded, and controlled by the Jamaican people. And when the rest of us wake up, when the 4 million of us wake up in the diaspora, when the 3 million of us wake up in Jamaica, not all you need is a small number. In fact, you only need a few thousand. If today, right now, 1,000 persons in the diaspora were to wake up and give $25 a month, and 1,000 persons in Jamaica would wake up and give 1,000 Jamaican dollars a month, immediately the electoral landscape changes immediately. And we would actually compete in a very solid way in the next election. All it takes is for we the people to rise up, we the people to stand up, we the people to put our monies where our mouths are and stop expecting something for nothing. Get rid of the colonial inspired mindset of freeness. They tricked us with these two parties and get us to believe that politics is free, that all we need to do is go and vote, shout power and shout shower and go vote, and wait for somebody to give us caps and t-shirts and fee-fees to blow and little money here and there, and we go and vote. They have tricked us into that mindset. And now we have to we have to unlearn that mindset and say, no. We have to own this system. So we have to own a party now. We have to make sure that we are in control. And the party is not simply a front for the PSOJ oligarchs, being used by the PSOJ oligarchs to trick we and fool we into thinking that these parties are working for we, when in fact they're only working for the oligarchs. Well, I've run out of time. I see some more comments here. We'll get back together again soon. Join me at 5 o'clock with Mr. Chase Neal when we talk about his candidacy and look at a few more questions. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful Sunday evening, and let's get back together again at 5 p.m. Jamaica time to meet with Mr. Neal. Take care.